Love and more respect for one another, this country gonna destroy itself from within, you know.
Now, the Friendship Nine were exonerated back in 2015. But when I asked Williamson about it, he said something interesting. He said wiping his record clear was almost like taking his badge away. Because even though protesting was treated like it was a crime, he says his actions caused the kind of disruption that was necessary for equality.
At WCNC Charlotte, we believe it is crucial to make a difference in our communities.
That's why we go beyond just reporting the news. We ask, where's the money to hold the powerful accountable and get money back into your pockets?
Our verified team takes claims, finds sources, and gets you answers.
And we're keeping you weather aware, making you safer and smarter.
I'm Vanessa Rufus.
And I'm Colin Mayfield. Join us weeknights at 5, 6, and 11 and see the difference for yourself.
Only on WCNC Charlotte.
Right now at 6, law enforcement across our area continues to cash in. Officers have seized tens of millions of dollars from people without ever having to charge them with a particular crime.
Yeah, this is part of a controversial asset forfeiture program. Critics call it policing for profit. In the latest installment of our forfeited investigation, we discovered police and sheriff's departments across Charlotte have in the bank a combined $16 million in seized cash.
As Nate Morabito learned that police that have seized and kept so much money through this program that they have not even spent it all yet.
The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has by far the most money on hand. $8 million as of the latest reporting period. And the department tells us it's making plans to spend that money. Police departments have long defended the practice of asset forfeiture.
They call it policing for profit. I don't think that's a fair characterization.
As a way to disrupt large criminal enterprises and inject the cash they seize into protecting their communities.
What better use of the bad guys' resources that they've earned that way to put it back into law enforcement?
A WCNC Charlotte investigation found local police departments have collected almost $21 million since 2018. Departments have used some of that money for criminal investigations and training, travel, awards and memorials, and to buy body cameras, generators, cars, a motorcycle, handguns, and a golf cart to patrol the greenways.
They literally can't even spend that money.
But public records show, even after those expenses, their fund balances are still overflowing, with a combined $16 million available as of the end of June.
It seems to be a problem where you're bringing in more money than you can obviously even spend.
Former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Eric Rowell is on a crusade for more transparency and awareness of the practice.
It's hard to ignore the abuses that take place.
Well aware of cases.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it.
Including those we exposed.
They just took my money without any consent.
Where police seizures took money away from people who were never convicted of any crimes tied to the cash.
It's just a matter of just constantly being vigilant with our local government to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
In his town of Huntersville, the police department's most recent annual report shows a combined $765,000 in forfeited money remains on hand.
I ask a lot of questions, and I've gotten comfortable doing that, and I do wish there were more people doing it. If I was elected, I would make sure.
Rowell, a libertarian, has twice run for a Board of Commissioners seat unsuccessfully, despite his losses.
I just have a few questions.
Some of the town's elected leaders have raised concerns too.
We don't know where each dollar comes from. That's an issue for me, and that should be an issue for all of us.
While the chief has said he's hopeful the town can better track how these cases start and finish in the future, the department has said it's unable to provide specifics of past cases, including how many resulted in actual criminal convictions.
It has to be related to a crime.
But has insisted all cases are tied to large-scale criminal operations.
Get asked the question, how many people's rights do we violate? I would have to say 0. We've got no complaints. We've got no ethics violations.
An HPD spokesperson told us the agency has yet to determine the allocation of its remaining money. The department declined an on-camera interview, just like the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. CMPD told us the agency has a plan to spend all of its $8 million beginning in July, after the council approves the next budget. But the police department has not yet told us specifically on what. We asked more than 2 weeks ago.
They're bringing in a lot of money.
Back in Huntersville, Rowell remains skeptical of asset forfeiture in general and has no plans to stop asking questions anytime soon.
We need to know whether or not our local law enforcement is involved in taking money or property from potentially innocent individuals.
We told you CMPD still has $8 million on hand. That's after the agency spent $1.3 million of its cash the prior year. One of its most recent purchases with this money, a new bomb truck. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
As we've mentioned, this is just the latest chapter in our forfeited investigation series.
Yeah, we've heard multiple stories and voices, and that's led our Where's the Money team to dive deeper into the books and check receipts. Tonight on WCNC Plus, Nate Morabito talks with our Jane Monreal about how this investigation started, how it picked up speed and attention from lawmakers, and where this asset policy stands now. So that's airing tonight at 6:30. Once again, it's on WCNC Plus. That is available on your favorite streaming device.
Right now.
During the Super Bowl, the Political Action Committee ran an ad for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president as a third-party candidate. But the commercial mimicked the famous spot from 1960 for John F. Kennedy, the candidate's uncle.
The ad even went so far as to replace JFK's face in some scenes with RFK Jr.'s face. But can they legally do that?
WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg is looking into election rules in this morning's Verify.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posted this statement on X. He apologized to his family if the ad caused them pain, since it borrows heavily from his uncle's famous ad. The commercial was created by American Values Super PAC, and Kennedy claimed he didn't have any involvement in creating it. He pointed out that Federal Election Commission rules prevent super PACs from consulting a candidate or his staff. So does the FEC rule actually prohibit super PACs from consulting with the campaign? Let's verify. Our sources, the Federal Election Commission, political professor Michael Bitzer with Catawba College, and the American Values 2024 Super PAC. This was the ad that aired Sunday night during the Super Bowl. It's a play on his uncle John F. Kennedy's old 1960s campaign commercial. On X, formerly Twitter, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posted that he was not involved, nor did his campaign approve the ad. The Federal Commission does have a set of rules that prohibit super PACs and candidates or their campaigns from coordinating such advertisements.
If the PAC was to coordinate with the campaign, that would then violate campaign donations and regulations, and the campaign could get into trouble for that.
Though Kennedy says he had nothing to do with the Super Bowl ad, he has reposted it and even has it pinned to the top of his X account, which is allowed under the FEC.
You know, as long as the campaign was not intimately involved in the development or the strategy behind the advertisement, they certainly can utilize whatever a super PAC puts out there.
Looking at the American Values 2024 website, they state they are supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign. So we can verify that, yes, FEC rules prohibit super PACs from consulting with the campaign. Bitzer tells us Kennedy needs at least 82,000 signatures in North Carolina before noon on March 5th in order to be on the ballot here as an independent. If he becomes a Libertarian nominee, he will automatically be on the ballot in North Carolina. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com.
WCNC Charlotte.
Weather is a kind of science that you get to see and experience every day. And I think some people don't even realize how much it affects them. That weather has a huge impact on how it threatens your family, your livelihood, or your home. So I think it really is one of those defining things we do that really affects everybody in our community.
See the difference.
That process of giving you a warning ahead of time and keeping you and your family safe is really important to me because I live here too. It's my family, it's my friends, it's my neighbors.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Well, today's a day to celebrate romance and love, but if you think giving a gift today is a new trend, think again.
Why do we give cards on Valentine's Day? Let's connect the dots. Hallmark estimates about 145 million Valentine's Day cards are exchanged each year, but they aren't the ones who started the gift-giving fad. The American Folk Art Museum says fertility-related customs and rituals have been celebrated in mid-February since pagan times. In the 1600s, the practice was to give pairs of gloves. By the 1700s, we started to see the beginnings of modern Valentine's cards. A century later, it got even more popular, with popular ladies' magazines publishing instructions on how to craft them. And then Hallmark helped the holiday boom when they started selling Valentine's Day cards in 1913. The holiday continues to evolve to this day, with cards being often less about romantic love and more about just letting someone know they matter. And that is Connecting the Dots.
When it comes to speeding, there's a saying attributed to traffic enforcement officers: 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine. This reflects a feeling among a lot of drivers that there's some leeway if you're slightly over the speed limit. But online claims say you could get pulled over if you're even going 1 mile over the posted limit. Here's Megan Bragg with this morning's Verify.
The state of North Carolina is an absolute speed law. What? So technically, can you get a ticket
for going 1 mile
for
over?
1 mile over? You can't.
So that clip from TikTok is now going viral after hundreds of people discovered they could get a speeding ticket for going 1 mile faster than they should. In the video, the guy cites absolute speed limit. But is this true? Can you get a ticket for going a mile over the speed limit here in North Carolina? Our sources are Matthews Police Department Public Information Officer Tim Aycock and the Uniform Vehicle Code. Tim Aycock says, plain and simple,
The North Carolina General Statute does state that it's an absolute speed law.
The Uniform Vehicle Code states there are maximum speed limits and no person shall drive a vehicle at a speed in excess of such maximum limits. The law also spells out default speed limits for various areas. For example, within a municipality, city, or town, unless otherwise posted, the maximum speed limit is 35 miles per hour. So what happens if a driver exceeds the maximum limit?
For instance, if it's 45 miles per hour, if you're caught going 46 miles per hour, technically you are violating that law.
But what if you're just following the flow of traffic? Aycock says it doesn't matter. In fact, under some extreme weather conditions, you could get a ticket for driving at or below the speed limit.
In addition to the absolute speed law, there's a safe conditions terms within that speed law, where if you're going too fast for the conditions, you could be going the speed limit, but if it's icy conditions or too much traffic congestion, there could also be a violation within that statute that you're going too fast, even if it's the speed limit.
The main takeaway, Aycock says, just follow the posted speed limit. It's there for your own safety. So we can verify that, yes, North Carolina has an absolute speed limit, meaning if you go even 1 mile over the posted speed limit, you could get a ticket. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com.
Connect the dots and let us clear up the confusion. We're here to make sure the news makes sense. And with Connect the Dots, you'll understand how the headlines impact your family. See the difference on WCNC Charlotte.
Another local business now left asking where's the money after being forced to close its doors in Uptown Charlotte. Thank you for joining us for the news at 5:30. I'm Nick Sturdivant.
And I'm Vanessa Rufus. Wentworth and Fenn is shutting down shop just 9 months after opening the second location. The bakery was excited for the promise of bustling business under Latta Arcade's rebrand as the Alley.
However, the owner tells WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman the lack of upgrades from the developer made the move unsustainable.
Wentworth and Fenn opened its second location here inside the Alley at Latta Arcade in June. But this week, it abruptly closed its doors. The owner telling me she was lucky if she made $200 a day.
Sam Ward loves baking up business at Wentworth and Fenn's Camp North End location.
Weekends here are amazing.
She was hopeful her second bakery inside the Alley would rise up to the success, but it fell flat.
There's no comparison. We would be lucky if we would even hit $50 before 11 a.m., which is sad.
The historic Latta Arcade building was supposed to be renovated by the end of 2023, but not much has changed. Ward thinks vacant office space in Uptown and the lack of upgrades by North Pond partners burned the opportunity for foot traffic.
I have over $10,000 in debt that I've accrued because of taking a bet on them, which I know that's business, but it's just really disappointing.
Felix Empanadas is also in the Alley and noticing dwindling business.
After the pandemic, people are just not in downtown like they used to be.
Felix's sister concept, Carnales, closed next door for the same reasons as Wentworth and Fenn. But owner Ivan Godward is holding on to hope.
And there's, I think, a lot of potential for the future that still hasn't been realized.
A spokesperson for North Pond Partners says the company does not wish to comment directly. But the remodel delays are due to a major plumbing issue that they've finally found a solution to.
North Pond plans to begin construction next month. As for Wentworth and Fenn, Ward hopes business at her Camp North End location will help her climb out of debt. In Uptown, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Welcome back to Flashpoint. It'll be up to leaders in Raleigh to decide if a sales tax gets on the ballot to help fund big transit projects here in Charlotte. And at least one Republican senator says she's having active conversations with city leadership. But so far, she says she's not seen a lot of progress. Joining us now is North Carolina Republican Senator Vicki Sawyer, who represents both North Mecklenburg and Iredell counties. Senator, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
As you know, the transit plan is so large, it's going to require buy-in from regional stakeholders and Republicans in the General Assembly. You checked both those boxes. So the first question is honestly a really simple, basic one. Have you personally heard from Charlotte City leaders about the transit plan and the penny sales tax that would be required to pay for it? Any of those things?
Well, to Mayor Lyle's credit, she has reached out to me on several occasions, maybe about once every quarter, every 6 months, in regards to their request to continue the transit plan. Of course, Tark Bakare has been a constant bug in the ear, and as well as Councilman Ed Griggs. They all three have really been working hard to make sure that I stay in the loop.
Okay, that's encouraging for folks who are fans of some sort of transit plan. That's encouraging. So then the next question, the logical question is, do you think we're making any progress on the issue?
No. No.
Well, that was a simple answer. Why so, though?
Well, I mean, we continue to listen and hear from the work groups within the city council that there's not one unified voice. We hear that maybe people want to do roads first. Others want to do transit first. And then you put all that into the soup, and then you hear that there's issues with cats. So it just seems like there is a mismatch of priorities in the city of Charlotte in regards to transit, and it really does need to be one plan.
So you answer some of it there, but what would you like to see happen before you're going to feel comfortable representing your constituents and supporting something like this? What needs to happen?
Well, for me, I've made a very clear request to the communities that I represent in North Meck, and that is they're going to have full buy-in from their mayors and their board in order to support any type of tax. So from the very beginning, for me, it's all about the local control and the local control of those mayors and council folks that I represent in North Mecklenburg.
You mentioned the roads first thing, and that's something Republicans have been pushing for. How do you balance that, though? I mean, you're personally affected by this. You're not some far off, lawmaker in Raleigh. You're affected by this. The red line would serve folks in your district. So how do you reconcile, a roads first, which Tim Moore has indicated he wants, the former House Speaker there in Raleigh, and also understanding that rail is the most expensive and largest part about this?
Well, very simply, there is no deal. There has not been a deal with Norfolk Southern. And this is the same deal that has been touted and sold and told to us, especially in South Iredell, North Mecklenburg. Gosh, from the time that I can remember, maybe the last 15 years, as a resident of this area for nearly 30 years, graduate of UNC Charlotte, I live in Mooresville. I-77 is the front porch or the front driveway for most of us in this community. And we have been told year after year that there will be some deal with the red line, and we just really frankly haven't seen any movement there. I do hear positive things are coming out, but I also heard that last year, and I also heard that the year before. So we are a community that have had 20 years of broken promises, going all the way back to finishing the 485 North Beltline, to the toll roads, and now to the red line. So quite frankly, I just have to see it before I believe it.
City leaders have toyed with your all's emotions over transit for the better part of 2 decades, going back to sales tax back then, I think in the late 90s as well. You mentioned Norfolk Southern. The big development there, for folks who don't know, is that the plan called for sharing tracks with Norfolk Southern. Unlike the Blue Line, which needed some new tracks, or say a Silver Line, which would need new tracks, this would basically share the same right-of-way, which is a huge deal as far as just construction and getting it implemented. Last year, Norfolk Southern, after saying otherwise for years, said, hey, you know what? We might be able to work with you guys, and we might be able to let you share the lines with us, which would completely change everything. But from what you're saying, it doesn't seem like that's gone any further.
Not that I'm aware of. And so I have tried to keep my nose out of it because I'm not one of the parties that is in those negotiations. So I don't want to mess things up. I have not heard from any of the leaders, either side, between Norfolk Southern or from the city of Charlotte, that there's any movement in that area. And again, as you just stated, we've had a history, decades of histories of broken promises. And I don't see that this one is going to come to fruition anytime soon, unless there's something that I just don't know.
I know the mayor has said she watches this program. I know other city leaders watch this program. I know you've spoken to some of them in the past.
Couple minutes. Coming out now.
Truly, this is about local control and the city of Charlotte's transportation vision and where they want to move forward. The General Assembly is there to help and aid one of our largest, if not the largest city in economic development in North Carolina. And transportation is a huge deal about that. You've seen significant investments from Raleigh into Charlotte, and we will continue to advocate for those. But we do need a regional approach to transportation. And when I say regional, that doesn't mean the city of Charlotte region. That does include Union County and Iredell and Cabarrus and Lincoln and those other surrounding areas that we all use the city of Charlotte's roadways. That is what I believe, and I think what Speaker Moore meant is about the roads first, because although these red lines and silver lines and blue lines are very attractive for an area, it only helps one certain area. It doesn't really have that regional approach that we're looking for to be able to live, work, and play in the Charlotte area.
A really illuminating conversation that I think folks, especially here in Charlotte, need to hear. All right, Senator Vicki Sawyer, thanks for coming on and chat.
All right, we are here to give another update. Again, I'm Mayor Quinton Lucas. I am joined by Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves, the Kansas City Fire Chief Ross Grundison. One thing that we want to note at the outset, the situation continues to have updates. Things will continue to change throughout the night. That's why we are here to give you an update right now. The chief, both chiefs, will be giving more information both on the numbers of victims, the status of victims. The chief of police will give more updates on the investigation. A few things to note that we talked about earlier. In terms of who was in danger, what existed, it is my view, as someone who did have to run at the sound of shooting, that there were a number of people who were, in the very least, caught up in the incident in some way. Myself, my wife, lots of families, players, chief staff, and others, their spouses, their families, a number of people who were in or near Union Station. So many people have been touched by this incident, and we recognize that. We also pray not only for the victims, including the decedent that was discussed earlier and their family, but also the victims of the shootings right now who we hope are recovering inside our hospitals. We'll continue to give you updated information. At this point, we've talked to our federal partners. We have also talked to the Kansas City Chiefs. We will be talking to the National Football League and others. More so, just to hear that all are safe who are with those institutions, and we continue to hope that all of those who were impacted are safe. To the extent you have information about suspects or others, we do encourage you to call the police. However, if for whatever other reasons you have information about the incident, we will be looking to share that through different methods. So if you have information about the incident, suspects and others, please call the police. If you're looking for other information, we'll try to continue to give you regular updates. I'll say this final thing and then we'll come back for questions at the end. Today was tragic for everyone who was part of it. I had the chance to talk to my wife just a moment ago, who said we became part of a statistic of too many Americans, those who have experienced or been part of or connected to a mass shooting. That is something that I hope we all recognize is highly problematic for all of us. I continue to commend our police officers, our firefighters, and others who were there to respond instantly, but we also need to figure out a way to make sure that things like this stop happening in our country. With that, I turn it over to the Chief of Police, Stacey Graves.
Thank you. I just want to echo the mayor's thoughts and his prayers, and also to acknowledge that not only the victims who were actually hit by gunfire, but there are a lot more people who are going to be forever impacted by what happened here today. You know, as people were running, you know, a lot of us law enforcement who are running towards the danger also guided those who were in fear of their lives, and that's something to be said of how impactful today's event truly was. Again, we have confirmed there is one deceased person. Our gunshot wound total has went up to 22, and Chief Grundison will provide a little bit more context to that. Right now, we're still working on a total of number of victims. This is still an active investigation. I do want to comment on the question that I got earlier about a video of some fans tackling someone. We do have 3 persons detained and under investigation for today's incident. We are working to determine if one of the 3 are the one that was in that video where fans assisted police. Our investigators are working with all of the surviving victims to connect them with loved ones. We are also working to identify our deceased victim so we can notify their family as soon as possible. We are also in the process of staffing a centralized phone number. This centralized phone number will be for those who are victims, witnesses, and if anyone has video or any information about what led up to what happened here today. Again, we are continuously receiving information minute by minute, which is part of the delay of us coming down here. But I do want to pass this on to Chief Grundison to give a little bit more context to some of the status of our victims.
Just want to say that all of KCFD's thoughts and prayers are with those families that were affected by this tragedy today. And while we were not expecting it, we were ready and prepared for an event such like this. Our KCFD units, along with our mutual aid partners that were working to assist us at this event, touched a total of 22 gunshot victims. One of those was a fatality. We had 8 what we considered immediately life-threatening patients. We had 7 with life-threatening injuries, and we had 6 that had minor injuries. The most serious, the immediately life-threatening injuries, we had 8 of those. Those were all transported and off the scene and route to hospitals within 10 minutes. So we felt the response was certainly adequate and appropriate, and I commend all our staff working there today, along with PD, that did an excellent job under difficult circumstances. We transported 3 different hospitals. We transported Children's Mercy, Truman Medical, and also St. Luke's on the Plaza.
Questions?
Yeah, so we're getting...
Who are you asking?
Anyone that can answer the question. So we've heard people talk about gunshots that they heard near the west side of Union Station, and then also gunfire and situations that happened near the fountain and the stoplight over there near the intersection of Bursing. Was there 2 separate scenes? Was there one big scene? Do you know the answer to that question?
That is still an active scene. That is a large ground to cover. As you know, the size of the Union Station. I will tell you, we have located that crime scene on the west side of Union Station. As far as in the front of, that is still under investigation. We have crime scene investigators as well as the detectives. We had a lot of our assault squad detectives and our homicide detectives that were actually in uniform today working the assignment. So not only did you have uniform presence immediately responding to the scene, rendering aid, going towards danger, but you also had detectives that were immediately on the scene that are still there and actively working.
Are you investigating any sort of connection with the earlier shooting in the day at 27th and McGee?
At this time, we don't know if that's connected, but that is something that we are looking at.
Children's Mercy says that they want parents to contact them if they don't know where their children are. Do you know that there may be, like, are there kids there who don't have a parent? Or?
I can tell you we have detectives at all of the local hospitals that are investigating, like I said earlier, trying to connect our victims to their loved ones. Should that be the case and it's a child, someone can either contact police, or if that is what Children's Mercy is requesting, of course they can contact them as well.
Is there anything you can say about motive?
Right now we do not have a motive, but we are asking those who may potentially have any kind of information, a witness or video, to contact police. That's one of that, what I talked about, that phone number that we're setting up that's going to be centralized for victims, witnesses, and potential video evidence.
Any age range on the person who died?
I do not have that yet.
You learned of a second gunshot victim who died from family. Is that
I have not been able to confirm another death.
You mentioned that there were some victims taken to Children's Mercy Hospital. I understood from staff at Children's Mercy Hospital that they received, they have 9 shooting victims, and it's possible that one of them was an adult. Do you know how many children were shot, if it was 8 or 9? And when we're talking children, are we talking about little ones or 17-year-olds?
Children's accepts patients up to 17 years old. Children's accepts patients up to 17 years old, and but we do not have that information currently on the exact ages of the patients that were shot. Yeah, I mean, Children's confirming we did transport to Children's Mercy, but we do not have the ages of those patients.
Mayor, how scary. You had over 800 officers deployed to work this parade, to work outside of Union Station, and still in a matter of moments, 22 people were shot.
I mean, that's what happens with guns. I won't get in a big debate right now. I think we're still doing an investigation, but I mean, what you saw happen was why people talk about guns a lot. We had over 800 officers there, staffed, situated all around Union Station today. We had security in any number of places, eyes on top of buildings and beyond. And there still is a risk to people. And I think that's something that all of us who are parents, who are just regular people living each day, have to decide what we wish to do about it. Parades, rallies, schools, movies, it seems like almost nothing is safe. And we had hundreds of law enforcement there working hard today. And I do want to echo what the chief said, who are running towards danger. But in a matter of seconds, someone who wants to disrupt anything, someone who wants to create any type of situation, or someone who is very simply reckless, can change not just one life or 2 lives, but almost 2 dozen. And that to me is absolutely devastating. And it makes me feel vastly more concerned as a parent just in the world today thinking about that.
Chief Graves, can you tell us more about how you were able to detain those 2 individuals who clearly caused so much harm?
What was the question?
Can you tell us more about how you were able to take those 2 suspects into custody?
Uniformed officers were on scene. I don't have all the information of exactly what they witnessed, but there was a pursuit, apprehension, slight injuries by our officers taking someone into custody. But as far as directly answering your question, I don't have that information right now.
Chief Graves, you have 2 gunmen in custody.
We were talking about weapons earlier. Can you tell me how many and what type of weapons were involved?
I don't have the exact on the weapons, but we have recovered firearms. I don't have a number for you or a caliber. We have recovered firearms. At least 1.
Okay. Chief Graves, you have 2 gunmen in custody. Do you believe there are any others still unaccounted for?
We have 3 people that we have detained. And that is what we are asking for, is if anyone has any information, is a witness or has any kind of video that may provide us if there is anybody else that was involved in this.
Is there a risk to the community at this point?
No, at this time, the scene has been cleared. It's being held, and when I say cleared, I say the scene has been made safe, and it's been cleared. Right now, we are in the investigative portion of that, collecting evidence, whether that be digital evidence or physical evidence. That is what we are doing right now, and we're also conducting interviews. Obviously, we have several victims that we need to have a conversation with, to ask questions, also witnesses. So there's a lot of work ahead in this. This is just the beginning stages, but we're moving as fast as we can.
Can you explain that there was like a 5 minutes between the first shots and the second?
All of that has not been determined just yet. The number of shots, the time in between them, the motive, all of that is still actively being investigated.
So we don't know if there were two separate scenes. We don't know the answer to that at this point.
I cannot confirm that yet.
And just, did I miss this? Was this inside or outside Union Station?
This was all outside Union Station.
And you did say that third
Thank you.
person
Thank you.
might have just been somebody who was helping police. I just want to make sure I'm right with my facts. You said you have 3 people in custody.
We have 3 people that are detained for investigation.
All right. Get my mic and get this coat off. I don't think Sydney made it back. I need to get your...
Let's stand.